Hello. I tore apart my Dometic 9100 series awning motor completely to see why it was jammed up. I'd hit the button and it would go thunk, thunk, but it wouldn't actually extend or retract. So I tore it all the way down and I found something noteworthy. Inside this little device, all the way down here, once you've tore it all apart, and I know it looks like a mess right now, but we'll show you how it goes back together here in a second. This is a clutch. This is a clutch disc. This clutch disc was stuck to that metal plate. That clutch disc goes directly on the motor shaft right here, and it needs electric to this magnet to pull the clutch disc in. To release the clutch disc, so it pulls a plate, fights these springs right here. The plate pulls in against those springs and allows the clutch disc to turn, which allows the motor to spin. I believe this is so when there's no power, your awning can't retract itself or detract, it can't move. So, but if it gets really hit with the wind, it has some movement, so it doesn't strip the gearing out. So, but anyway, that's what I'm working on. That's what was stuck in my motor. So I'm gonna continue from this and put it all back together. It's a bit fiddly, so with the little screws go in the round holes. They set with the threads facing up. The clutch disc goes with the green dot facing up in the middle. The upper clutch plate, these little screws will eventually pass through these, so we need 3 brass ferrules, and I'm going to put the corroded side up where they don't move this time, the clean side down, because I suspect that's what caused the problem, was the dissimilar metals. This brass against the galvanized plate. So anyway, there's that. 3 screws sticking up, 3 little tubes. We're going to line these plates up with the 3 little tubes. We're going to take these longer screws, gently drop them down through there, and get them started in with our Allen wrench. Oops, I haven't DSO lined the whole thing. Like I said, it's a bit fiddly, but not impossible. Grab my handy Allen wrench, figure out what I've done with it. Here it is. And does that fit this one? Yes. Oh, now I've knocked the spacer clean out. Pull it back up. Put this back in there. Put that back on there. Get it started all over again. Okay, that one's in and started. Do the other 2. These did not have a lot of torque on. I had to crack them loose. I mean, they made a slight pop when I cracked them loose, but nothing major, and I'm not going to go crazy with how much torque I apply back on it. I'm worrying about it being exactly perfect. But before I apply the torque, I'm going to recenter the clutch disc best I can. So it will be actually fitted onto this part of the motor, just like this. So what we can actually do now is, if we wanted to, we could well, I think we're just going to use this as a guide to make sure everything's lining up like we want it to. Make sure we can get it on there lined up. And then I'm going to tighten these down. As I said, the initial torque breaking them apart, it wasn't real crazy, but I did see they had some thread locker on there, so. At this point, any life I get out of this between now and its junk point is bonus money, so I'm not going to get crazy with new thread locker. Considering it's up against another plate, 3 other bolts would have to loosen before these could back out. So, okay, then this one drops onto the square shaft, and then you use your same or different wrench to go down through these holes and to tighten the previously installed little screws you have there. I need a bigger Allen wrench for that, of course. And that's why you laid them on top facing upward, because they go inside these holes, and that's what hooks the bottom onto the top. I'm going to snug them up first, and then I'll go through and tighten them down. These also weren't extremely tight. Didn't take a whole lot to break them loose. And these are standard Allen wrenches. Everything on it's been American. Okay, this was just a ring, just holding these wires onto here, down in. These were laid tight, and they did initially have a piece of tape wrapped over them. Right here, the thermistor was taped to it just to make good contact, but I don't really care if it overheats. That's the least of my concerns at this point. Alright, so there we have it. And I can find some of their tape now. We're not even going to bother retaping it. So now I'm going to put it back into the housing. I tend to put all the bolts on where I take them out from. So this is where I removed them initially. So this is where I'm going to put them back at. This back over top. I'm not exactly sure about how to align this here. I didn't pay all that much attention when I took it apart. I'm going to look for the largest opening, and that's where I'm going to put the thermistor and everything. So I'm going to say it's either the left or the right side there. So I'm going to go with the right side and just shove it in there like so. And see if I can get it to come out this bottom end and align with the holes in it. Looks like it's gonna. I pushed the wire tie off of it, but because the wire was tight, it seems a bit crook. This is the seal to keep the water out, and I'm assuming there was a gasket, or supposed to be a gasket around here. Nothing came out. I didn't remove a gasket. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is put a gasket in there this time around. So, and this goes back on, once you lay the wire in, this goes back into that detent. It gets screwed on with these 4 screws here. So I'm going to take it apart, work with a little, get it so it's a little looser in the assembly, and then I'll get these 4 screws lined up and into the bottom end. These 4 here that I just took out, and then this piece, this was the drive nut. It goes on after I've got that on there. It goes on. This nut secured it. So I'm going to go ahead and reassemble all this back to this point. I'll meet you back here. This tape down with black tape. I had some clear Gorilla tape, so I taped it back down. And I just wanted to show you real quick that what I meant by the hole. This side here has a deeper track. If you look down inside of it, you can tell it's deeper. That's where the thermistor goes. That's why that room is there for the wiring and everything to fit down in there. So there's that. And then you can line your little holes up on the bottom right here and put your screws back in the bottom, which I'm going to do now. Alright, this side's lined up, all 4 screws are back in. The gear is now going to realign back over this point. We'll knock out the ladybugs. And this is the nut for on it. And I'll go ahead and go grab a wrench and tighten that down. I'm not going to torque it to anything crazy, just tighten it down until it's snug. I'm looking in here, verifying I have clearance on everything. It looks as if I may have been missing a little thrust washer. Some type of a washer assembly on this. I'm just checking to make sure it doesn't bottom out before it hits on the screws, because these screws were loose when I took this apart, so it looks about right. Looks like it's right on where it should be. Drive shaft's out, so this, once your shoulder bolt hits there, it actually won't ever come down tight onto the motor itself, so we're good. No washer needed. Tighten it up. I happen to have my channel locks nearby, snugged it up. That's it. Tight, won't fall off, we'll drive the motor. Alright, back to this end. Now, this little dent here has to line up with that. This is the seal, the water seal for the housing, which kind of confused me because there's really no water seal around the perimeter of this. No seal was present when I removed it. So this just goes on there like that. These 4 screws. put these in and tighten them down and meet you back to show you the next step. Alright, after verifying that these little washers don't fit any other part of the assembly, I forgot about these little guys. They go in on each side of this. That's why it felt loose. Either way, it would have worked. We would have just had leftover parts. And a rattle in our awning. Alright, we're back. I've assembled the lower part of the motor. We're going to put the little drum housing back on. Put the first of the plastic washers on. This one stayed in the drum. That back through. We got our plastic bushings that it spins on. This little E-clip holds everything in there. And the only parts we have left now are this piece and this piece here. And these are the actual drive hubs. So to get this part back on there with this pin removed, I remember which way it was. This way. Drop down through there. And then you can put your pin back in once you get your wire connector through. You can drive your pin back in as soon as I figure out which way it goes in there. There we go. And just be careful when you put the pin back in, you don't pinch the wire down inside the hole. Drive the pin through without smashing the wire, if possible. Like, I guess now that you're to this point, you can pretty much push the pin through and then drop it in the hole, either way. And that's your drive. Nope, it has to be driven through. It's narrower at the top than the bottom. So, we put it on there and put the pin back in. The pin is giving me a fit. No, wait, there's the hole. I'm trying to line it up wrong. And again, trying to miss the wires. Okay, rotating the pin, trying to roll the wires out of the way. Gonna tap them. Try to push them up and down past it. Use an Allen wrench. One wire on each side of it. Come on, don't be. And it's a bit fiddly. There's a wire on each side. Trying to tap it. Alright, there it is. Straight through the hole. Back in. And then once the other side is back flush with that hole, you've got it. Okay, the only part of this assembly that's remaining to put back together is the actual hub that goes over the arm and attaches to the arm. This wire here goes in, comes through it here. This goes on, and now, if you don't want this to ever be able to fall out ever again, you put a small rivet in right there. It was just a little 1/8" shank rivet, 1/8" deep, 1/8" rivet right there, and that held it. And then it has a stainless screw that goes there and there that mounts the assembly to the bearing. And this is the part that holds it into the arm. So I'm going to go over now and plug this into my existing awning and have an assistant run the switch and show you that it now turns when before it would not. But yeah, here's the actual Dometic motor installed. This is a replacement. I had taken mine out. I assumed it was something simple, but I had already purchased one to replace it with because I didn't want the storm to whip up and not be able to put it up. So basically this was the 2 stainless screws that hold the hub assembly on up here. I've taken this one out, unplugged it, plugged mine in. So, and this is the bolt that actually holds it onto the assembly. So I'm gonna have my assistant go ahead and run the motor. You can see I've got it plugged in now to the actual motor onto the, or actual frame on it. All right, go ahead. Forward, reverse. It works like it was intended. Had a stuck slipper clutch. They want $200 for this, or $100 for a Chinese knockoff. I'd rather just unstick the clutch. Hope you enjoyed it.